emotions get a fairly bad rep. I mean, when you think about it, being described as emotional or highly strung is equated with weakness and irrationality, and worst of all, femininity, like as if men don't have any feelings whatsoever. But that's a whole other misogynistic story for another day. But from my own personal experience, for a long time, I thought that all of the issues that I was experiencing were down to the fact that I was emotionally sensitive, that I felt at such a high intensity. And it took me a really long time to realize that the issue wasn't how I felt or the extremes at which I experienced life. The issue was that I didn't have the skills necessary to be able to regulate my emotions, to be able to fully process and understand them, to be able to decipher them, and to be able to act in accordance with my values, as opposed to being very reactive based on not being able to cope with my emotional experience. And I think we assume that we have to be at one extreme or the other. We assume that we either wallow in our emotional experience completely or we dominate it. We suppress all of our emotions. And I think part of that way of thinking comes from assuming that if we empathize with other people, that we will be weak, that we will be vulnerable, that we won't be able to exert power. And that paradigm has very much driven, I suppose, capitalism and corporate worlds. But unfortunately, it has led to the demise of so many, because ultimately we can only suppress our emotions for so long before it has an impact on all aspects of our life. I mean, we have emotions for a reason. They are a human function. They are messengers that are vital to knowing what it is that we need to be doing in life. And when we completely ignore them, when we deny their existence, we are denying part of our authenticity. We are denying part of who we are. We are denying part of our experience. And it really impacts on us and can be the causation or one of the causes of so many mental health issues. But then again, we can't over-identify with our emotions either. We need to be able to provide a little bit of rationality to it. And that's where emotional regulation and resilience comes into play. It's about being able to work with your emotions and find a middle ground so that you're able to fully honor them, you're able to fully process them, you're able to understand when you may possibly be influenced by past experience as opposed to just whatever response you're having in the moment, and to be able to apply a little bit of logic so that you're not acting in a very reactive way, you're acting in a more responsive way. But again, as long as we pathologize our emotions, we are always going to feel like as if we have to suppress them. We're never going to feel that we're allowed to be vulnerable, that we're allowed to be open about our genuine experience. And I have learned to see the intensity of my emotions, as I said, as a sixth sense. I love the intensity of what I feel. And yes, that means that I feel intense negative emotions, but that also enables me to fully appreciate positive emotions. I mean, to experience joy and happiness and love and awe and wonderment at levels that are just amazing, you know, and it is so vibrant, it's so colourful, and it inspires so much creativity within me. But then again, I have to know how to nurture myself, because when you are a highly emotional person, when you are very sensitive, then you really need to take care of your senses. That means that sometimes being around people a lot, being in very crowded spaces, being in places where there's a lot of noise and a lot of stimuli can be extremely draining. And certainly I find that I nearly need to have an equal amount of time by myself just to fully recharge the batteries, just to immerse myself again in a type of silence. And I am introverted, you know, I am very an empath, and it's knowing how to care for that aspect of the self. Also trying to find an outlet for creativity. I mean, I think it's Brené Brown that says that unused creativity is not benign, and particularly for people who are highly emotionally sensitive, it's important to have some sort of creative outlet in this world that is so focused on success and career. It's important to be able to just sit down and to create something beautiful, whatever that is, whether it be through baking or sewing or knitting or singing. Just find something that gives you that sense of being at one with yourself, that allows you to fully explore that aspect of your personality, and that allows your emotions to pour out into the world as opposed to carrying them all within yourself. It's also recognizing how to use your emotional gifts. I mean, I love the fact that I can be very compassionate, that I can be very empathetic, that I can really sit with people in their emotional pain. Because I allow my emotions, it gives other people the freedom to experience theirs. And I think we feel like as if we need to be self-sufficient, we need to be independent, we need to work through everything by ourselves. And that is so far from the truth, it's ridiculous. We are storytellers. We live off each other's experience. It's what makes us feel that we are not alone in this world. And by denying our emotional experience, our sadness, our angers, our fears, we don't give other people the permission to acknowledge theirs. So we all go around the place assuming that everybody else is positive and happy all of the time, and stifling our reality. And it's recognizing that there is a beauty in every single emotion. I mean, there has been times when I have been so overwhelmed with sadness and yet still felt a beauty in it, still felt an awesomeness about it, you know. And it's recognizing that the more you appreciate your internal experience, the more you will appreciate the simple things in life. You know, you won't need to be continuously forking out money for these grandiose experiences and materialistic things which ultimately give you very little joy and can be quite vacuous. You will start appreciating little things that cause you to feel differently. Again, everything that we do in life is chasing a feeling. You know, we buy stuff, we try to spend time with certain people, we eat, and it's all about trying to give ourselves this feeling inside that was always there, that we just maybe have numbed down on because we've been trying to numb down on some of the more negative emotions as well. And you cannot selectively numb your emotional experience. Feel one, feel them all. You know, you can't just assume that happiness and love is there all of the time. There's also going to be sadness. There's also going to be resentment. And there's also going to be envy and jealousy. And again, as I said, they all have their purpose. But it's about not letting your emotions control you. And the more you try to exert control and suppress your emotions, the more likely they are to control you at a subconscious level. Whereas if you make a home for them, if you make a place for them, if you give them the recognition that they deserve, and if you sit with them long enough to decipher them with curiosity and with openness and with non-judgmentalness, then you will be given insight into who it is that you actually need to be, the decisions you need to make, and how you want your life to pan out. And I suppose it's recognizing that it just gives you a whole other depth of understanding, because again, as I said, when we only see things at a very rational level, we miss out on a whole pile of the story. Whereas when we fully appreciate the gift that is our emotions, we develop greater awareness, we develop capacity for greater intimacy in our relationships, and we become more compassionate, we become more intuitive, we become more aware of other people. So it's about letting that aspect of yourself flow, not to be wallowing in your emotions, but to learn how to work with them so that you can allow them to give you your true potential as an individual. If you would like to get better equipped with working with your emotions, get in touch with me on the website. It's fundamentals.ie.